On a hot summer night 15 years ago, a man named Stan Cox started to get some emails.
You, sir, are one of the most worthless, brain-dead, chicken-shit motherfuckers living on this planet today.
More came.
You and those of your ilk need to be shot right in the head. You should have someone take a look at that case of brain damage you have.
Quite a lot.
Neither you or your comrades or anyone else can stop me now or ever. F you, f them, and f off.
At the risk of blaming the victim, what did Stan do that pissed so many people off?
I wrote an article about air conditioning, suggesting that maybe we use too much of it. And I thought it was a very non-confrontational, friendly, cheery thing that I wrote.
But people hated Stan's suggestion. Hey, maybe we should use less air conditioning. But Stan's not deterred. He wrote another article last year. This was the headline.
I swore off air conditioning, and you can too.
And he got more hate mail. It was not as well written.
You probably smell. It's so Twitter.
Stan is a writer and scientist living in Kansas, and he grew up in Georgia. He knows heat. He's retired now, but for years was a plant breeder at a sustainable agriculture nonprofit. He writes these articles and even a book called Losing Our Cool, because air conditioning, unfortunately, is bad for the planet.
Almost unique in having this feedback loop quality in which it gets hot, we run air conditioning, that air conditioning draws energy from power plants, so it helps warm the atmosphere so that summers in the future will be even hotter than they are now, and we will need even more air conditioning, leading to more global warming.
So it's the energy that air conditioning uses that we should be concerned about. And the point Stan is making is maybe we should use less. But if you can't tell from the reaction, people do not like to be told to use less. Now, I work in media. I know one huge reason why papers publish articles like Stan's. People click when they feel judged or they want to judge. Climate can be a judgy space. We know human activity is the cause of climate change, so we want to change our behavior. And naturally, monitor other people's. Are they doing what I'm doing? Especially when it comes to using energy. Think of the fanfare around tracking celebrities' private planes and how good it feels when you walked or biked or took the bus somewhere that everyone else drove. But to say no to air conditioning and sleep in the heat? Oh my God, I can't do it. And I don't want to be judged for it. And here's the thing, AC is becoming necessary to live. Even Stan agrees.
Yeah, if it's 115, which has become common now in the U.S. Southwest, or even last summer in India, it got up to 127. There really isn't any way to keep yourself cool without air conditioning. That's where life gets difficult for air conditioning critics, because it used to be that in any situation you could stay cool without air conditioning, but now it's not going to be the case.
Indeed, it won't be the case. The planet is getting hotter. We're going to use AC, and we're going to use all kinds of energy. And right now, most of that energy comes from fossil fuels, oil, natural gas, and coal. They are the main cause of global warming. It will probably be like that for the rest of my life. The classic argument has always been, use less. Some kinds of energy are less worthy than others. But if you look at the data, it's clear that energy use is going to keep growing. So until the day we figure out how to run the grid on human judginess, can I find a way to enjoy all the things that use energy, whether that is driving to Starbucks, laughing at memes made using AI, and yeah, air conditioning, and feel like I'm not bad for using all that energy? I'm Amy Harder, and you're listening to Shocked. Today, bad energy. I'm starting with air conditioning because I am sympathetic to Stan's argument. Less AC, less energy, less carbon dioxide. It sounds great. But there is another perspective.
I disagree with Stan. I don't think he has any idea how irritable I get when the air conditioning isn't working. I don't think he has any idea that I can't do my job when the air conditioning isn't working. I don't think he has any idea how much worse of a parent I am when there's no air conditioning. And of course, those are all funny examples. Air conditioning saves lives too. And that's perhaps the most important argument.
This is Michael Greenstone. He's kind of a big deal. He's an economics professor, and he leads the Institute for Climate and Sustainable Growth at the University of Chicago. He's a devout fan of air conditioning. And you're going to hear from him throughout this entire series for his, well, often unsentimental attitude towards climate issues.
I actually think one of my strengths as an environmental economist is that I didn't come to it because I'm an environmentalist. I care about the environment, but I don't care about it any more than anything else that makes humans' lives better.
I told Michael that conserving energy sounds like a pretty good idea. Just to play devil's advocate here, what's so bad about asking us to accept a little bit less or a little bit more so we can reduce our energy use? Why is that so bad?
And I think you're edging towards energy shaming. And I want to just pick at that a little bit. I don't think energy consumption is bad per se. We should just use less energy. I don't know. Is that true? The energy consumption itself is not bad. The energy consumption is good. It powers the air conditioning, makes me feel better. It allows people to drive their cars and heat their homes and cool their homes and a million other things. So I don't think we should be shaming energy consumption. There's externalities associated with that energy. And that's the problem. What we should be shaming is the air pollution and the carbon dioxide that causes damages.
I get Michael's point. It's not using energy that's bad. It's the fossil fuels that power energy and the damages that those cause. And there has to be better ways of confronting this than giving up what we love and what makes life worth living. I'm going to talk about this more with Michael at the end. But first, I had to talk to some people. In order to truly give up worrying about the ways we use energy, I thought the best thing to do would be to explore 3 ways that we use energy to see whether or not I would be comfortable cutting them off. I'm going to stick with AC first. The U.S. has pretty universally adopted residential AC. About 20% of the energy that we use in our homes goes toward air conditioning. But the future of AC and what people like Stan Cox are worried about is the energy use that is coming. Today, 10 air conditioners are sold every second. As the world becomes hotter, people are going to buy a lot of ACs who didn't have them before. It's just a fact. Keep on the path that we're on. The energy to power them will pretty much all come from fossil fuels. By the year 2050, air conditioners around the world will use as much electricity as a country. I don't think I can say air conditioning is a bad use of energy without talking to someone in the middle of this transition.
I always keep saying that sky is not the limit. We are operating in a limitless opportunity.
This is Kanwaljit Jawa. He's the head of Daikin India. Daikin is one of the biggest AC manufacturers in the world. He's been in the industry for a long time. I had to ask if he was like the king of air conditioning in India.
I won't call it that I'm the king of the air conditioning, but I think I have a fairly good knowledge about it because I've worked in Indian air conditioning industry for more than 4 decades. So I have known how this market has evolved. If we talk about the market today is 14 to 15 million room air conditioner. When I started, the total market was maybe less than 10,000.
Jawa started in 1987. He first worked for a refrigeration company. Because they use the same chemicals and concepts, the AC and refrigeration industries often come up side by side. Then he got scouted to work with Carrier, an American AC company. They made him a really great offer.
Part of my employment contract was that I was given one telephone and also one window air conditioners as a joining bonus. As a joining bonus.
Even if Jawa was in a super small elite group of people with an air conditioning unit, he still had very average concerns.
First, my worry was that, okay, how will I pay the energy bill? I will never run an air conditioner, maybe just 1 hour, and people will come and see, oh, what a showpiece it is. People will come and see in my village that the AC was installed.
Back then, Jawa was the only person with an air conditioner in his entire village. And today, he is part of the industry that sells 14 to 15 million units in India every year.
Maybe 40 years back when I started, the duties and the tax structures used to be so high. This was considered as a luxury industry. And it was all controlled. If this country was selling less than 10,000 air conditioners that time, you need to take a license, if you have to sell 10,001.
For more reasons than we can get into here, in 1991, the Indian economy opened up, and you no longer needed a license to sell the 10,000th and one air conditioner. But the biggest change came when a new, more efficient kind of AC hit the Indian market. Because it was more efficient, it didn't make your electricity bill as scary.
Also, government started looking at it from luxury to probably a need. This industry was being seen that this will create a lot of employment. At the same time, it started improving the efficiency and productivity of people.
This is another thing that AC makes possible: productivity. The former Prime Minister of Singapore was asked at the end of his life what the most important things were to Singapore's success. First, he said promoting multicultural tolerance. Okay, that's pretty good. Second, air conditioning. He called it, quote, one of the signal inventions of history. It changed the nature of civilization by making development possible in the tropics. Without air conditioning, you can work only in the cool early morning hours or at dusk. The first thing I did upon becoming Prime Minister was to install air conditioners in buildings where the civil service worked. This was key to public efficiency. End quote. I know that when I'm in severe heat, my ability to think clearly or make good decisions gets a lot worse. Researchers have found that in a heat wave, students without air conditioning will do worse on tests. The rise in violence in the heat has been well documented. Heat kills people. AC can prevent that. One of Michael's studies found that deaths as a result of very hot days in the United States declined by more than 80% from 1960 to 2004. And it was the adoption of air conditioning that accounted for nearly the entire decline. Air conditioning is not a luxury in a warming world.
No, at one point of time, it was luxury in India. But today, if you look at kids' bedroom, to boardrooms, to malls, to hotels, to schools, to commercial buildings, or to hospitals, or to villas, I think it has become a necessity.
Back to our central question today, though. What about the energy of it all? After all, India's grid runs mostly on coal. When I asked Jawa if using energy to power AC is a good thing, he was certain.
Yeah, certainly yes. I think the answer is very yes, straight away, because you save on electricity bill, you also carbon emission is less, and this is the commercial reason that like in India we are manufacturing highest efficient air conditioners.
So if there were a form of energy that's bad, AC, especially in India, is not going to be it. I can't say it's a waste of energy. Next, I had to talk to someone in the industry that maybe first comes to mind with bad energy: data and AI. We say AI like it's one thing, but it's a huge category. It includes everything from asking ChatGPT to plan out your vacation to using a proprietary model of it to test out drug combinations. And then there's my personal favorite, the seemingly annual tradition of posting fake photos of the singer Katy Perry at a gala she wasn't actually at. This happened the last 2 years and even fooled her mom once. That did make me laugh, but at the same time, I can't say that this use of energy is valuable at all. One thing is certain, whatever you are doing with AI, it actually happens on a machine.
I think probably up until a few years ago, nobody really talked about data center companies at all. Data centers were hidden.
This is Bruno Berti. He's the head of product for a company called NTT Global Data. AI companies are developing the software, but it's Bruno's problem to make sure that they have enough energy to actually work. And the energy is so important to a data center's business that is actually how they are measured.
We design, build, and operate our data centers. So typically we measure in megawatts because we charge our clients based on the power that they commit to. So typically we measure in megawatts because we charge for that capability.
And he wants you to know that it's not just ChatGPT that's taking place in a data center. On the same day that you listen to this podcast, you're likely going to use something else that runs off an NTT server.
Actually, probably that hour. Data centers are very prevalent in what we do every day, right? Everyone thinks about podcasts or everyone thinks about social media and accessing your photos. But if you look at exactly everything that's done inside of a data center, there's also banking, watching movies, streaming, editing movies, healthcare, it's anything that's being done with imaging, it's all done inside of a data center. Even emails, every time you check your email, those emails are stored somewhere. And I think a lot of people have heard in the past this term, the cloud. It's not really up in the clouds. It lives inside of a data center somewhere.
Now that we know what's happening there, how much energy are data centers using? I asked Bruno to run me through the numbers.
So a typical home is designed to consume about 1,000 watts or 1 kilowatt of power. So that's what a typical home consumes. It just consumes that over the course of the day, right? So you're turning on lights, you're turning on television. One of our standard data centers is designed to provide 36 megawatts. So 1 megawatt is 1,000 homes. So a 36 megawatt data center consumes the same amount of power as 36,000 homes.
AI is causing the energy consumption from data centers to explode.
So we talked about 1 kilowatt is a home. So inside of our data center, we have racks, about 7 foot high, maybe 2 feet wide. And you install equipment in these racks. And then we put power to these racks, and then the racks use the power. And for the longest time, a typical rack consumes 3 to 5 kilowatts. So 3 to 5 homes worth of electricity in one rack. Well, 3 to 5 kilowatts has been the norm. Now with AI, those pieces of equipment are 120 kilowatts a rack. And NVIDIA is now talking about technology that actually says 600 kilowatts. So that's 600 homes in one rack's worth of equipment.
That is a lot of energy to ask ChatGPT to plan my vacation. But AI is bigger than what I do with it or what my neighbor does with it. In fact, there's one really big thing that investment in AI is doing. Keeping the U.S. economy cooking. Yes, really. So far in 2025, spending on AI has contributed more to GDP than consumer spending. And most of that is on data centers, like the ones that Bruno described. The American economy has been otherwise pretty slow this year, alarmingly so. AI is one stable area of growth, whether we like it or not. This strikes me as a testament to the idea that access to energy is essential, not just for the things we know we need, but for things that might seem like luxuries or gambles at first. Energy consumption allows for all kinds of innovation to take place. In the case of AI, there are even social benefits. Later in this series, I'm going to tell you stories about how AI is helping detect hazardous waste violations, driving advancements in climate adaptation in rural India, and even combating climate misinformation. So air conditioning in a warming world makes sense. And AI could power our future growth and help us adapt to climate change. But what about something that seems obviously wasteful? Completely unnecessary. That's after the break.
If you're getting a lot out of the research that we discuss on this show, there's another University of Chicago podcast network show that you should check out. It's called Capital Isn't. This podcast uses the latest economic thinking to zero in on the ways that capitalism is, and more often isn't, working today. From the morality of a wealth tax to how to reboot healthcare to who really benefits from ESG, Capital Isn't clearly explains how capitalism can go wrong and what we can do about it. Listen to Capital Isn't, part of the University of Chicago Podcast Network.
Air conditioning as a life-saving technology. AI as a source for innovation and growth. I can see the value of using energy for those things. But what about something really frivolous? This is a recording of the jam band Fish performing last year. I am not criticizing Fish. What I am criticizing is the venue where they are playing, the Sphere in Las Vegas. We all know that Las Vegas uses a ton of energy, but the Sphere is pretty unique. It's like a giant globe, covered in over 1 million LED lights on the outside, and is on 24 hours a day. It opened in 2023. And yeah, it's hot in Vegas, and the Sphere is air-conditioned. I tried to find out exactly how much energy the Sphere uses, but they didn't want to be interviewed. Based on what we know about buildings and energy use, air conditioning likely makes up a quarter of all the energy it uses. Air conditioning is saving lives in India. It's going to save lives in parts of the world it spreads to. Heck, it's saving lives in the United States. But a gigantic lit-up billboard? As I write this, it is playing an ad for the grocery store Aldi and for DoorDash. At its peak, something like the Fish concert, the entire Sphere uses the same amount of energy that it would take to power 28,000 typical homes. I'd sound like a crank for bringing this up, but powering a 2-hour concert with the equivalent of a neighborhood? Come on. Existing stadiums are just fine. This is what I nominate for the objectively most ridiculous use of energy. I was ready to say, yes, this is the energy use I would cut off. I was ready to get Stan Cox-style hate mail about it. But then I learned that the Sphere entered an agreement with this power company to get 70% of its energy use from solar. It's under construction now and is scheduled to finish in 2027. This decision wasn't solely inspired by the Fish vibes and crunchy fandom. No. It's actually possible because the state of Nevada passed a law that requires an ever-increasing amount of electricity to be powered by renewable energy. With this law, Nevada is eliminating some of those externalities, the damages from fossil fuels that Michael was describing. So actually, I'm good with the Sphere. If it can be powered by solar, who really cares how much energy it uses? Isn't that what we want to happen? This is the future of unfettered energy growth that I want to live in. Maybe I will even see you at the Eagles residency this fall. It is human nature to consume things and to invent things too. I'm starting to come around to Michael's point that you can't really shame energy use. There is no bad energy. Energy use is good. The challenge is how to get more energy, more spheres, more air conditioning, more pointless memes without carbon emissions. I caught up with Michael in Chicago to talk about what he learned and if he would ban anything. Here's that conversation. This episode has been a lot about energy use. And one thing that keeps coming up to me in my conversations is, are you talking about energy or are you talking about climate change? And to me, the answer is always the same, which is that they are different sides of the same coin. Why should we distinguish? Now, to be clear, there are some things that are just energy. and some things that are just climate. But Michael, I think the things you and I work on are really at the center of both of those things. And so when I talk about fracking or when I talk about sea level rise, ultimately we're talking about energy and climate change.
I agree and I disagree. I agree if we take the world as the way it is, but I don't want the world to be the way it is. And the way it is all that energy use, most of it is coming from fossil fuels. And so, yes, that is almost inseparable from climate change. But the world doesn't have to be that way. That's a choice. And by letting fossil fuels do their business to the climate for free, which is a decision we make every single day, then they are the same thing. But I want to ask the question, does it really have to be that way? And if it's not, then energy consumption can be glorified and we can think about all the wonderful things it does. It means humans don't have to do backbreaking work, and it means there can be cooling, and you can go to great concerts in Las Vegas with giant video boards and enjoy all that energy is producing.
You know, this is something my therapist tells me. You just have to accept the way the world is.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there.
That's what I told my therapist.
I completely object to that. I don't accept the world the way it is. Those are policy choices. The absence of taxing or penalizing in some way fossil fuels is as much of a choice as choosing to penalize fossil fuels. And so I just want to hold that up. That was like, yeah, we wandered into it and it seems like, well, that's just the way it is. But that was a choice. And so now there's all this guilt and shame about using energy, but energy is not the problem. It's the pollution that's the problem.
So changing laws to make air conditioning climate friendly or to tax fossil fuels takes a really long time. And so far, the United States in particular hasn't been very good at it. And that's why people like Stan Cox write these articles calling on people to take a stance and to change their behavior. So how can just falling back on, well, we just need new laws, how can that be satisfying to people?
I think it can be unsatisfying, and policy takes a long time to happen. I also think, and I understand and appreciate deeply and share Stan Cox's concern about climate change and all the unfortunate things and that could be unleashed by it. But it's settling for going for the capillary. The jugular is you got to level the playing field so that the fossil fuels don't have a free ride. And the reason I think of shaming air conditioning or shaming flying to see grandma or shaming whatever other Bitcoin or whatever other thing or Spear, whatever we want to point to, is people love those things. And yeah, maybe you can push people at the margin, but no one's stopping to see grandma. And if I got a ticket to go see the opening night at Spear with you too, I would have gone for sure. And I would have flown to Las Vegas for it.
Can you explain a little bit more what you mean by capillary approach?
I think if we have a limited amount of mind space to devote to this, focusing on energy shaming will achieve something, but I think it will achieve very little relative to the magnitude of the problem that we have and the magnitude of the challenge that we have, and that directly targeting CO2, which again is, I think, the problem. I don't think energy consumption is a problem, but directly focusing on the enemy, stepping way back from it. If I were in the fossil fuel business, I think I would be thrilled if people's environmental urges put them down a path of, let's spend a lot of time drawing up energy shaming lists and pointing fingers at people, because I think that's the capillary path. It takes all this energy that people want to do something about climate change, and I think applies it to an incredible, what has proven to be a very ineffective approach.
One of the most common questions I get when talking to people is, what can I do when they feel like laws aren't changing fast enough and their individual decisions make no difference? I still think there's value in learning about how energy affects individual behavior and vice versa. For example, when I was moving to Seattle several years ago and I decided to buy a car, I went through the research of trying to find the cleanest, safest, most affordable car. And that led me to the most boring choice, which is the Toyota Prius. And I think that's good. I think it's a value add to the human. And you learn about the system in which you live in and then the broader politics. And then it helps you vote for certain people that will make different choices. And it all maps up to bigger decisions. And so I think just throwing up your arms and not giving a shit at all is not helpful. But also, I have friends who won't fly because of climate change. And I try to gently say that they shouldn't let their lives be that negatively deterred by something like climate change. So as an individual human who tries to do well by the environment when I can, is there any way that I can think about it in terms of what could be the best for climate while also not losing too much angst over it?
So search for the most efficient thing to do. That's what economics is often looking for, the most efficient thing to do. Getting the most number of tons of CO2 for the least amount of money. That's what I would try to add to your list for consideration. Amy, what is your most embarrassing use of energy?
Well, we do have a natural gas fireplace at our apartment, and I turn it on a lot, and it doesn't actually give off much heat. It's just ambiance. And I feel a little bad about that.
How many miles a year do you fly?
Definitely more than most, but not as much as you.
You're not going to answer.
I don't track that. Do you track that?
Well, United tracks it for me. I'm more than 100,000 miles a year. Do I feel bad about it? No. But I also offset myself.
I offset it, the fireplace.
You do? How?
Yeah. Puget Sound Energy, I signed up for their program.
Oh,
I'm fine.
Okay.
I feel good.
It's a judgment-free zone.
I'm sure it works.
Yes. Yeah. So I think the next step is, look, there's lots of online calculators where you can put in information on the life you lead, how much you fly, what your electricity bill is, and things like that. And they'll pop out how many tons of CO2 you're responsible for. Once you know that, I think you can offset that, or you could offset 5 times what your contribution to CO2 is. So what that means in practice is finding a credible form of offsets, and that is not easy. Full disclosure, I've started something called Climate Vault, which tries to, I believe, provides credible opportunities for people to offset their tons. But finding a credible way to offset your tons and doing that, and maybe your neighbor won't be as happy with you as he or she saw you composting, but the planet will be way happier.
Yes. Well, thanks, Michael. This has been a great chat. Looking forward to next time.
I can't wait. Energy forever.
Shocked is part of the University of Chicago Podcast Network. It was produced by Jesse Baker and Eric Nuzum of Magnificent Noise. Our production staff includes Christine Driscoll, Amy Pedulla, Sophie Bridges, Jamie York, and Samantha Henig. Special thanks to Ankit Kalanki. Our sound designer is Kristen Mueller. A big thanks to my co-host, Michael Greenstone, a professor at the University of Chicago and director of the Institute for Climate and Sustainable Growth. He also serves as executive producer of Shocked, along with Sam Ori, the executive director of the Institute for Climate and Sustainable Growth. The Institute combines a 360-degree approach to education with frontier research having an impact in frontline communities globally. The Institute's efforts are driven by the need to balance climate risks with societal growth. To follow or support their work, see our show notes or visit climate.uchicago.edu. For more of my reporting, you can look for me on pretty much any social media. Search Amy Harder. Or look for my byline at Axios. This is Shocked. I'm your host, Amy Harder. Thanks for listening. Next week, I'm going to explore an idea that has the potential to tackle some of the most immediate effects of climate change and is a little bit sci-fi sounding at first. Geoengineering.